I've been creating YouTube videos for over a year and a half now, and I use a lot of kit to create that content. But I've created a short list of 5 things that I couldn't do YouTube without. So for anyone out there who maybe wants to start their own YouTube channel, hopefully this list will be a good starting point. And make sure to stick around for the last one, because not only is it free, but it is arguably the most important thing when creating content on YouTube today. Let's go for a run and let's get stuck into the list. Now, the way that I've collated this list, apart from the last one, which as I said before, is completely free and is probably the most important point out of all of these 5, but the other 4 go up in cost and the natural trajectory of someone who's making content. Number 1, the phone. It can be any phone, any smartphone. Most smartphones these days have everything that you need to create content. And although phones themselves are reasonably expensive things, most people have them already without paying any extra cost, and you've already got one of the most important content creating tools ever. Me and Philly started with the iPhone. That was for the first 6 months of Philly's channel. We filmed everything on this phone. I still use this phone today to film some of the content on my channel when I'm out and about, when I don't want to take the big camera out with me. So for those out there who are sitting there maybe thinking, oh, I don't have the right kit, I need to save some money, or I'm not sure where to start because cameras are so confusing, all you need to do is pick up your phone and start creating. So what's number 2 on my list? Well, you've got some footage now from maybe a phone or a camera. We'll get onto the cameras later. What do you do with it? And that's where number 2 comes in, editing software. Now, editing softwares falls into 3 categories, and they kind of go up in price. You've got the first category, which is free. Then you've got the pay monthly packages. And then finally, you've got the softwares where you pay a couple of £100 and you get the software for life. Now, before I go through each 3 of those categories, I want to tell you a little bit more about my editing story and which programs I've used as I've evolved as a video editor. As an actor, I do a lot of my auditions as self-tapes. I record them on a camera and then I send them to the casting director. Before I even got into the YouTube game, I needed a very basic editing software. Now, for a previous job, I already paid for a monthly subscription to Adobe. Now, I started on something called Premiere Rush, which is basically the simplified version of Premiere Pro. I had been using this for my self-tapes, and then when we did get into the YouTube game, I used Premiere Rush definitely for the first 5 or 6 videos on Philly's channel. And that's where after 5 or 6 videos, there are certain things like titles, transitions that I really wanted to get my teeth stuck into. And it was just a perfect transition really, from going from Premiere Rush, which is a very basic version of Premiere Pro, to Premiere Pro. It wasn't a seamless transition. It took weeks and months of learning, hitting roadblocks, not understanding the software. I made loads of mistakes. But with a bit of patience and watching a lot of YouTube tutorials, I can safely say that I'm all right now. And before I break down some more editing softwares and who they might be useful for, I've got to go for my run. Quick shoe update while I'm doing my physio exercises. Loving them so far. They're great. None of the niggles, none of the aches and pains that I was getting from the 1080s when I was running in those. Definitely the right shoe for me at the moment. We're just talking about my shoes, and then I was interrupted by a call from my voiceover agent. Very exciting news. I have got a pencil for tomorrow at 11. Very last minute for a radio advert. I do know the production company. It's called Global, which is like a massive marketing and entertainment company, and they do campaigns for the huge brands. It's really cool to get my first job with a really big agency like this. As I said, shoes, great. Test them out in a session on Friday. Let's get back to the 5 things that I couldn't do YouTube without. All right, let's get back to the 3 different categories of the kind of price structure of editing software. We've got the free ones, we've got the pay monthly, and we've got the one-off large payment. Number one, the free softwares. I'm gonna pick two, but there are loads out there, so go and do your research, but these are two, one that I've used, one that I haven't, but I've heard very, very good things about. First of all, iMovie. Only available on Apple's, which for some people is definitely a con, but if you've got a Mac, it is a brilliant way to start editing. It is very much a click and drag. You've got transitions, you've got the ability to put text in, and that's all you need to start a YouTube channel. Number two, DaVinci Resolve. Now, this is a free software that rivals some of the pro softwares that cost a lot of money. It does have a one-off big payment if you want DaVinci Resolve Studio, but what's great about it is you can test it for free, you can use it for a couple of months. You have the option to buy DaVinci Resolve Studio, which I think is a win-win. Now, let's get to part two, the subscription-based editing softwares. I'm gonna pick Adobe for this one. I think this is really for someone who wants to use all of the family apps that Adobe has, so Photoshop, After Effects, Illustrator. If you have use for any of those apps, I would suggest Adobe. You can get their all apps bundle for between 40 and 50 pounds a month, depending if there's a sale on. And if you're a student, it's a no-brainer because it's 16 pounds a month for everything in the Adobe family. Now, the last one, the one-off payments. I am going to suggest if you want to start a YouTube channel, do not go down this route to start with, because you have got free versions that you can test out, like DaVinci Resolve, before you make the investment. You can pay for Adobe for a couple of months, test out its services. If you don't like it, you can just unsubscribe. Whereas if you're looking at something like Final Cut Pro or going straight to DaVinci Resolve Studio, you're making it a really big investment. They cost around £200 to £300 when you don't even know if you're gonna like the software. I would suggest if you're starting a YouTube channel, start with free or go with an Adobe subscription just to alleviate the risk. One last caveat on editing software, they all have their issues. No editing service is perfect, but that's with any piece of technology. Cameras, phones, you have to learn the quirks of the trade. We've got about an hour until the session. I'm gonna probably do about half an hour worth of rehearsal in here, just to make sure I've got everything up to scratch, and then we'll get on with the session. Sing! Bidda-gidda-ba, bidda-gidda-ba, bidda-gidda-ba. Voiceover session went amazingly. They loved everything that I did, which was great. And this is a great segue into the third thing I could not do YouTube without. The microphone. Regardless of whatever you're filming with, whether it's a phone, it's a budget mirrorless camera, or it is a £5,000 cinema camera, you need good sound. People will spend a lot longer watching a video with bad video quality and really good sound than they would if they were watching a video with crisp quality footage but dreadful sound. So getting a microphone to improve the sound quality of your content is paramount. A mic was the first thing that me and Philly invested in when we started her channel, and we still use it today. It is the Video Mic Go 2. And we even used it with the phone to start with, not with the camera. Annoyingly, there is a cable that you need to buy from Rode, which is so long, and it's a bit of a nuisance if you're using it with a phone. But if you think the sound is pretty good on this channel, on Philly's channel, then I would suggest this as a really, really good starter mic. And we definitely learned the hard way. There were many times when we went to a race, especially when it's outdoors, and it was so windy that some or most of the footage was just completely unusable. How was it? Yeah. And here's a little side note for you. Even with the mic that we've got now, which is a fantastic starter vlogging mic, if you don't have the right protection around the mic, wind is a very big problem. So I would suggest a little tip to getting a wind shield, or it's better known in the movie and filmmaking industry as a dead cat. I mean, it kind of does look like a dead cat. Before I move on, I just want to briefly mention some other kinds of mics that you might need. I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on this because to start off, I don't think you need these, but they are the lav mics or the wireless Bluetooth mics. What are these really used for? They're used for more interview-based videos and less action because they're quite annoying to have on you if you're running or you want to run and gun. They're a bit more difficult to use. Plus, if you're using a proper lav mic, this means an extra step in your editing process to synchronize the sound and the video. I'll put 2 different versions of those in the description below that we use if anyone out there is interested. All right, session day today, but before we get into that, let's get into number 4. Why get a bigger, better, more expensive camera? What's really the benefit? Not much. If videography and creating more beautiful, more cinematic footage is just not what you're interested in, you don't need to go down that route. The phone is absolutely fine. Or a really budget-friendly digital camera so you don't have to worry about the battery running out on your phone, because filming takes up a lot of battery. But if you're in the second camp, if you really enjoy the filmmaking, you enjoy creating footage that has a little bit more of a chef's kiss to it,
beautiful,
then getting a mirrorless or a DSLR camera is a really good step up in elevating the content. I've got a few little tips for you if you're looking to get a better quality camera. Tip number 1, if you've never used a DSLR or mirrorless camera, find a budget-friendly camera to just start messing around with, like the one that we bought. But to start with, to understand the basics of using a mirrorless or a DSLR, I would suggest going budget. Second thing, buying secondhand. You can pick up almost new cameras, almost new lenses on eBay, on Facebook for a very discounted price. There's also websites out there that do refurbished cameras for a discounted price. So look into that first before you get really scared by the prices. And 3, a little bit like the editing software, take the time to learn about the camera. There will inevitably be teething issues, filming in wrong settings, footage coming out blurry. There are a lot more variables when it comes to a camera rather than just pointing and shooting with a phone. An honorable mention are the action cameras, the GoPros, the Insta360s. These have their place. We got a second-hand GoPro before we even got this camera because unfortunately stability is a big issue when it comes to mirrorless and DSLR cameras. Firstly, taking them on a run is ridiculous. And even a phone doesn't have particularly good stabilization, especially when you're running and there's lots of movement happens. So if you are creating a channel where there is a lot of action, you're going out for runs or cycles, I would suggest before you even consider getting a DSLR camera to be able to show your audience what you're doing physically, you're better off getting a GoPro to start with. All right, it's session time. What we've got on deck today is a 5-3-2 fartlek. A few different changes for today. The traffic is dreadful to get to where I normally run, so I'm just gonna run there, but it's a bit longer than I'm used to for a warm-up. And it's later in the day. It's after lunch. I normally try to get my runs done in the morning. That's what I'm used to. That's what I prefer. We'll give it a go. Let's get it.
I had to start walking. I was just getting way too knackered. I was like, there's no point doing my warm-up, getting to the session and then being like, oh, used all my energy to go up a hill. So got past the hill. You didn't write this shit, did you? It's now pouring it now. beautiful. All right, luckily it was only a short shower. I'm gonna get to 1.5 miles for the warm-up and then just start. That's very soon. Actually, we'll stop right now. Sorry, I forgot to say that it's 5-3-2, just times 2 this time, which is nice. I won't overshoot this time because I can just do one set back. I think I'm just gonna give it a go. I'm not gonna have any kind of perceived time, I don't think. I'm just gonna see how it feels because it's a bit of an unusual. Lots of things have changed today, so give it a shot, do my best, see how I go. That feels like shit. Oh, it feels so tough. That's the first set done. Some recovery, and then we go again. It's downhill though, so hopefully it's a little bit easier. It's now tipping down again. Perfect. All right, 3 minutes, let's go. This is terrible. Oh, I can't hear we're done. I'm soaked, I'm knackered. Oh my God, tough day at the office.
Daniel just sent me a text saying, towel and camera please. I wonder why. I can't imagine why. A bit wet?
A little bit. That's the first run in a while where door to door, hated every second of it.
Did you?
Yeah.
Glad you went though?
Yeah.
I literally thought that. I was sat on the sofa and about 5 minutes after you left, it just started hammering it down. Did you hear the thunder and lightning?
Yeah, literally just now. Literally warm up, pouring rain. Session, a little bit of drizzle, cool down, pouring rain.
Nice. A bit wet.
A little bit, yeah.
Right.
Shower
Strip
time.
off before you get upstairs, please. You're dripping.
Yeah. Just been filming some B-roll for a sponsored segment for Days Brewing, which is a zero alcohol beer. They do pay us for Philly's channel, just to be fully transparent. If you do like them, Philly's got a code. I'll pop up on the screen now. Go check them out. They create really good non-alcoholic beer. But what time is it? It's 10:30 and I'm having a pint of non-alcoholic IPA. So that's bizarre. But anyway, I thought I would take this time to go through my splits from yesterday because I got home, I was cold, I was grumpy, so I had a shower and kind of chilled for the rest of the day. My watch was saying 72 hours of recovery time, which is a little bit insane. Reminder, we had 5, 3, 2 with 90 seconds in between all of them, no difference in the recovery. I did the first 5-minute rep in 8:09, and then I did the 3 in 7:42, and then the 2-minute in 7:29. That's probably a little bit slower than I would have wanted it to be. It felt very difficult. It felt like I was doing the last rep of a hard session every single rep. And then in the second set, I did the 5 minutes at 7:54, the 3-minute at 7:30, and the 2-minute at 7:02. My faster reps should be run at faster than 5k pace. My 5k PB is 7-minute miling, so I should really be in the high to mid 6s for those shorter reps. But the warm-up wasn't ideal, the weather wasn't ideal. I can throw all these excuses, but it was tough, but I got it done and we move on to the next. Cheers. Happy Sunday. So what is number 5 on my list? And I mentioned this right at the beginning of the video that this thing is free and arguably the most important thing when it comes to creating a YouTube channel. And that is the story. Before I deep dive into why I think the story is the most important thing when building a YouTube channel, I'll go for my long run. It is pouring outside and Philly has taken the small camera, so I'll just see you on the flip. I hate the rain. That was disgusting. I have 3 takeaways from this week. 1, the Brooks Glycerin GTS 20s are fantastic. Number 2, need to anti-chafe my nipples when it is raining and I'm going for a long run. Number 3 is, for the first time in a while, I've done a couple of runs where I've hated every minute. And that's absolutely okay. Gone are the days of YouTube where you can just film what you do in a day and expect it to go viral. With the rise of TikTok and short form content, people's attention span is the hottest commodity in today's social media world. And building a story is probably the most powerful tool to grab and keep hold of your audience. We can't all jump into YouTube and suddenly become the master storytellers like Mr. Beast or Ryan Trahan or even the likes of Casey Neistat. But here are 2 tips to get you on your way and make the storytelling process a little easier. Number 1, the 3-act story. This is a really common concept that's used in TV, film, YouTube, any creative outlet. It's the idea that there's a beginning, middle, and end. The beginning, the protagonist has a problem that needs to be solved. The middle is the trials and tribulations of trying to get to that point. And then finally, it's the resolution, the end of that 3-act story. For example, the last video that I just posted today about finding my mileage shoe, we've got the beginning, I need to find a mileage shoe. Then the trials and tribulations are me going to find out what shoe I need to buy, the fact that the shoe wouldn't arrive, and then finally at the end, to keep your audience captivated through the whole thing, I get the shoe. I test it out and it's all good. And then the other one, which helps those who are just starting out, rather than worrying about having to craft every single video to have the best story in the world, is what I call the rainbow story. It doesn't have to be one specific video, and Philly is really good at this, because Philly is always working towards the next marathon. So the story, although we try really hard to create a story within each video, there's an overarching story from the minute she picks a marathon to all the training, the altitude camps, the trials and tribulations, to the finish line. It's almost like a massive elongated 3-act story. So what are you working towards, whether that's in sport, whether that's in career, whether that's just the idea of growing a channel? Find that story so that people, your audience, can invest in that story and want to come back for the next video, for the next installment of that rainbow story arc. I hope those 5 tips helped at least one of you out there to maybe take the plunge to start making a YouTube video or to start their own channel. But without sounding like a parrot, my last words to you in regards to building a channel is to just start. Most people have a phone to film something with, or have a capability, whether it's a secondhand camera, a GoPro, anything that you've got lying around that can shoot video, you can start a YouTube channel. So just start. Just pick up the camera, make a video. You've really got nothing to lose. See you next time.